Well, hello everybody, and welcome to my show. My name is Jason DaCosta, and this is Consistent Preterism. Thank you for joining me today on this magical Monday. Not sure why it's so magical, but it is Monday, and I hope you all are ready to tackle a new week full of different adventures and endeavors and whatnot. And so anyways, today what I wanted to talk about, well, before I talk about what I wanted to talk about, let's talk about what else I wanted to talk about. The wife and I were watching The Joker the other day, and, that movie that just came out, and because people had said it was interesting, and I kind of like, sick and twisted movies like that, right? That, you got the crazy guy, he's tormented, poor soul kind of thing, and, it's just interesting. And so a few different people had said it was an interesting movie, and, the guy was really kind of played the character really well. And so I checked it out, and it was very interesting, very disturbing. But I just could not help but compare the Joker in that movie to Joe Simpson. And I know that I bust on Joe Dirt Simpson a lot, but it's just too easy. It's funny, right? Because I don't know if you guys remember, but if you were around whenever it was that I roasted Joe on the show a few times, maybe 6 months ago, maybe. I don't even know if it was that long ago. But Joe Dirt Simpson, brief background, he was, he started out as, according to him, all different types of Christianity, and bounced around, did the Messianic Christianity, like all kinds of different things. Thought he was a Jew, then came into full preterism, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Eventually, that led him to universalism, where he fought violently for the fact that everybody was saved, and Jesus saved everybody and loved everybody, and that Islamic terrorist is going to heaven with you, and, this type of view. And so then he comes off of that, and he comes into Israel only. But from the very beginning, Joe showed his cards that he wasn't very happy about Israel only, even though he admitted that it was true. But he he tried to kind of keep a universal backstory going. And I know that a lot of the other IO teachers sort of shared with me how ridiculous it was to do this, in other words, they would say, hey, you got to see what Joe is sharing. He's clearly IO now. But he also says that somehow Jesus saved everybody, along with him only saving Israel. So you could see that Joe was being completely inconsistent. On the one hand, he was admitting that IO was true and that everything made sense and it answered all the questions and blah, blah, blah. But on the other hand, he was very upset that it didn't involve everybody else. So he was trying to make up nonsense that says, oh yeah, but we're all saved through Jesus as well. So he had a lot of inconsistencies going on, but he was IO, and he would admit this. There were videos on his YouTube channel, which I believe he's since taken down. He shared a bunch of things in different groups. So he was IO, and many people saw this stuff. But then he kind of went crazy, right? He had a Joker moment where he lost his soul and was tormented, and come on, lady, you can do it. And he just started going berserk, right? And so he left IO, left universalism, left full preterism, and now he's back in futurism. And the point of this whole story here, and this, going down memory lane with Joseph, is his laugh, right? When he did a few videos, he was obsessed with me for a time, and half a time. And he did a couple videos and titled them DaCosta, DaCostalism or something. I don't know. He had some doctrinal name for my view. But he did some slanderous videos and tried to, disprove the things that I was saying. They averaged maybe 2.5 views per video and 3 dislikes per video. It was a real success. But he did these videos, and in a couple of these videos, I shit you not, Joe broke out in random, just totally mysterious and disturbing laughter. I mean, just the most odd type of laughter that one can imagine. One of them, he's driving in his car, and he's just laughing, like literally just laughing, like almost to the point where he wants to cry. And you could see that tears started to well up in his eyes, yet he was laughing. And he claims in the video that he's full of the joy of the Holy Spirit. But you can tell that this laughter is something that belongs in this Joker film, right? It's not laughter for a good reason. It's laughter because he's confused, he's tormented, he's lost, he's not sure where to go. He's, everything's kind of crumbling in his life. And so he's laughing. And it was very disturbing. And I'm sure there are many of you who know exactly what video I'm talking about. In fact, a couple of you had actually shared it with me with a big WTF near it. In other words, what the is going on with this guy? Because it was very disturbing. So Joe Dirt Simpson resembles the Joker, and not only for his theological views, but also because of the way that he just bursts out into random and very, very concerning laughter. Anyways, enough about Joe, okay? What I want to talk about today is this New Testament mission. And I've talked about this before, and like I always say, I like to kind of circle back, loop back around, bring up certain topics and different points that I've made and sort of hammer them home a little bit further, just to kind of show people how clear this is, and also to kind of, redo these topics for the new people, right? I may not have done this in the past recently enough, so there's probably, I'd say, 100 subscribers that may not have heard this yet. But what I wanted to talk about is the mission, all right? The mission. Because I think when people look at the New Testament, they automatically and instantly think that it's an ongoing, eternal sort of game, if you will, or like an eternal humanity type of deal where it just goes on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, and it never ends, and it just keeps going, and just anybody who wants to can join in and play, and everybody's lost and cursed, and everybody needs salvation. It just keeps going and going and going and going and going, right? Because that's what we've been taught to believe. That's the view that we've been that's been pounded into our brains. But when you really boil it down, right, and you get rid of all the nonsense and all the outside noise, and you actually look at what the New Testament letters say, without any of that influence, without any presuppositions or assumptions or whatever you want to call it, all that lies in the New Testament is a very limited mission, okay? A very limited in scope, limited in its context, limited in the time. Everything about what the New Testament has to say is limited. Okay, and it does not go on forever. It does not expand for all eternity. It does not include all people with no exception. It is very, very exclusive. And part of this, so many of you are familiar with Derek Lambert, good friend of mine, good kid, great kid. And he's got a YouTube channel, Myth Vision, excuse me, and he has all these, random minds on there, some scholars, some just Joe Schmoes. I myself have been on the show, so a whole range of people, right? You have just everyday Joes like myself who like to study and kind of put things together and figure out puzzles. And then you have brilliant minds like Dr. Robert Price, who looks like Santa Claus and just sits up there and just rattles on. He's like the human encyclopedia. So, a wide range of guests, right? And so Derek will pay these guys a small fee. He didn't pay me. Come on, Derek, step up, big guy. No, I'm just kidding. But he pays these scholars a small fee. They come on and they yap for an hour or two, and he's doing quite well with it. A lot of subs. But the one thing, and this is why I don't buy into anything that these guys say, the one thing that they're presupposing, okay, and they're not understanding, which is why well, I shouldn't say they reject I.O. Some of them do when they hear it, just a quick surface explanation, right? Of course, they're not being explained properly, and they're also not hearing it in its full form with the massive amount of scriptural proof that it comes with. If they did, they probably wouldn't be so quick to dismiss it. But when they're presented with a little taste of I.O., they usually kind of dismiss it off as, well, no, look, there's Gentiles in the New Testament. Or, well, no, I mean, look, this is an ongoing mission. They have their different quick reasons to discard it, but they're not looking at the full picture. But the main reason that they are believing what they believe, and what they believe is that it's all a big conspiracy. This was done by, some of them believe that it was done by the Romans, James Valiant's view. That it was concocted by the Romans. It was Roman propaganda. It was all these different, conspiracy theories. And he has these guys on the show, and they just ramble off different facts and different quotes and different ancient historical figures. And, well, this guy said this, and it was in, the 4th century when this guy said this, and he was the one who said this, and there was a Jesus of this that lived in that time frame, and there was a Paul of this that lived in that time frame, and this very well could have been the same guy. And isn't it quite mysterious that this guy said this? And isn't it quite mysterious that there was a Jesus of this town? And just on and on and on and on and on it goes. And you have 1,000,000,001 conspiracy theories, right? With nothing concrete. I mean, absolutely nothing concrete whatsoever. Just a bunch of ideas and possibilities, right? And for some people, that's cool, right? For some people, that's what they like. But having listened to many of Derek's presentations with these guys, and not to take away anything from these guys, personally, it does not work for me. Okay, for me, it doesn't. And it's not that it's not like I have a ministry here. It's not like I have books. It's not like I'm making money off my Israel-only doctrine. I'm literally getting nothing from this Israel-only doctrine other than enemies. That's all I get, right? But I'm a stickler for truth. I'm a stickler for things that make sense. I'm a stickler for logic. And I just can't help but say that, wow, nobody has even touched Io. Nobody has even come within the realm of Io's logic within the galaxy. And so the reason why a lot of these guys stick to this conspiracy idea and just keep hurling different ideas and throwing things out and trying them and everything is because they're presupposing the Christian view. Okay? And what do I mean by that? Well, they're assuming that what the Christians believe, right? The wannabe Christians that have it all wrong, they're assuming that what they believe is actually what the New Testament scriptures say. Let me repeat that. The reason why these conspiracy theorists, if that's even a word, believe as they do is because they're presupposing, or they're assuming, that what the Christian world today believes is actually what the New Testament writings say. Okay? But, and this is a huge, big, old, sloppy, jalopy booty butt, all right? If the New Testament letters do not say what the Christian world says today, then these conspiracy theorists have a problem. Because their argument is usually centered around the fact that this is propaganda, this is conspiracy. These letters were written to sort of unite Jew and Gentile. They were written to sort of establish a new religion, perhaps. They were written to sort of establish peace within the empire. All sorts of different ideas as to why these letters were written. But most of the conspiracy ideas center around the notion that they were written for a purpose. And that purpose had an ongoing effect. And so what they're doing is they're looking at what the Christian believes that the scriptures say, and they're arguing against that belief, or they're arguing with that belief, I should say. Not so much against, well, yeah, against, because they say it's bullshit. But they're also arguing with. In other words, they're taking the Christian view that the gospel goes on forever, and that there's no distinguishing between Jew and Gentile, and that there should be peace between Jew and Gentile, and all this stuff. And they're saying, look, this system was invented and created by corrupt people, rulers, leaders, whoever, and it's being run with now. And this is why you have what you have today. That's basically the overarching theme of Myth Vision. And this is not a knock on Myth Vision. This is not a knock on Derek. Derek knows I love him. In fact, we texted each other this weekend. Derek's good people. I have no issue with Derek. I don't even have any issue with anybody on Myth Vision besides the fact that I think they're all kind of a bit rude, the people who comment there. And I'm rude too, but they're rude in the sense that if someone comes along and says, hey, the scriptures actually make a little bit of sense if you look at them this way, they instantly call you a fuckwad, right? And they say you're an idiot, right? And it's, I'm telling you, like they use words like that, which is why I use them. I don't usually drop F-bombs on my show. But they do, they're very hostile, because when you take something from them that they've worked so hard to establish, that being all these conspiracy theories that get them nowhere, actually, they get pretty pissed off. And so, anyways, so Derek's good people. I have no issue with him. I have no issue with Myth Vision. It's very interesting, some of the stuff that's shared there, but it just doesn't cut it. All right. And so, like I was saying, if in fact the New Testament letters do not support the traditional Christian view that this is a religion, this is a new religion, this is a new union between Jew and Gentile, this is a religion that was supposed to replace Judaism and bring all people together, right? If it doesn't say that, then they have a big problem, because then it doesn't go along with their notion that this was all a big conspiracy theory created for political or whatever types of reasons. Now, with that said, a very brief look at the New Testament will show exactly what this is. And it'll show that it does not make sense with what the myth people say. Okay? And let me be clear. When I say myth people, I'm just using that for sort of Myth Vision, okay, the channel. I'm not using that in a wide sense, because I myself believe that a lot of what is said in here is myth, okay? I know this is kind of tricky. I believe it was myth, okay? I just believe that it's Israel-only type myth. I believe that the details of the story are myth, mostly, and, the supernatural type stuff, and it is sort of like a mythical tale of bits and pieces of Israel throughout the years, or whatever may have been passed down through oral tradition, and somehow along the way it was put together in somewhat of a magical type of story, or a hopeful expectation of saving Israel from the nations, and this Messiah figure would come for them. I mean, this is what they believed and hoped for many years, supposedly. So it makes sense that people would write about it and put together tales about it, just like Harry Potter or anything like that today, right? That's really all it is, in my opinion. But some people believe that it really happened, and that's fine too. But when I say the myth guys, I'm speaking of, those people who have built a career off of saying that everything's a conspiracy in the New Testament, and that it was created for political reasons and purposes, and that, stuff like that. In other words, everything that most of these guys on Myth Vision say, Robert Price, James Valiant, all these other guys, whatever they claim about these conspiracy theories is, I totally disagree, because the New Testament doesn't say anything about an ongoing religion. The New Testament says something about a very short, final work upon the earth, where Israel was being gathered in from all places, near and far, by this miraculous Holy Spirit that was taking them to the lost sheep. He was helping them find the brethren. He was seeking them from the nations. And when the fullness of those nations were to come in, or would come in, all Israel would be saved. When all those who were Christ were raised at his coming, then would come the end. When all the elect were marked on the forehead, then would come the end. Okay, so there's all these statements, like Jesus in Matthew 24, saying that the gospel will go to all nations and then the end will come. The same end that he encapsulates in that very generation, and before some standing there died. So all throughout the New Testament letters, and that's just a handful. I mean, I can go on for days. That's why I have a YouTube channel. Everything that the New Testament letters say says clearly that this was a temporary mission, that there was a limited, exclusive number of people in context, and that it would all end at the coming. Now, ask yourself a very simple question. Why on earth would anyone in the conspiracy realm create such a story that ends so quickly? In other words, if this was to be a conspiracy theory, like everybody says, then why on earth would it end like it ends? Why wouldn't it continue? Why wouldn't it go on? It just doesn't make any sense. So again, it really makes no sense, folks, if you think about it. Why on earth is this story ending at the coming? Why isn't it saying something different? Why isn't it assuring people that this is not a limited context, that this is for everybody, and that all those who are Christ would not end at his coming, right? It just doesn't make any sense. So a conspiracy theory falls apart when it's held up against this glaring monster fact. The New Testament does not allow anything to go beyond the coming of the Lord, which it clearly portrays as being at hand, about to take place, and soon to come to pass. It's the Christian misconception and misunderstanding and total botching of Scripture that says that this goes on and that Christ's coming is in the future, or it's the full preterist botching and misunderstanding that says that, yes, he already came, but all this stuff continues. There's a lot of issues there. But this whole conspiracy deal that says, oh, this is political or this was invented by someone to do certain things is just nonsense. Okay, because it just doesn't work. If I was going to invent a certain doctrine or write certain letters or, put together a story that I wanted to use to control the masses or to cause peace or to do anything really, I certainly wouldn't have the details of that story coming to such a radical close any day now, right? That doesn't make any sense. What's the use of saying, hey, this is all about to come to an end, but I want to use it to manipulate you for years to come? Doesn't make any sense. So a lot of issues there. I just wanted to kind of get that off my chest and show people that this is a mission, folks. This is not an ongoing thing. This was a very detailed, explicit, exclusive, targeted mission. And it was to go out and seek the sheep wherever they were. And they had to be all in by the coming of the Lord. And the gospel ended at the coming. Plain and simple. Matthew 24:14. All right. All Israel was saved at his coming. Then came the end when he delivered the kingdom up to God, a.k.a. the heavenly rapture, where they were all changed, caught up together in the clouds, where they would forever be with the Lord. That's the whole point. The ride off into the sunset, happy ending. That does not sound like a political agenda to me. That does not sound like trying to cause a new religion and cause peace between Jew and Gentile. That doesn't sound like any of that. And this ironclad fact is why I could never get on board with these conspiracy theorists. Anyways, folks, that's all I got for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a like. If you didn't, take a hike. And we'll catch you on that flip side. Thanks. Bye-bye.